Hi everyone, it's Jamie here from ProServe IT, and on this month's edition of Tales from the CTO, we're going to have an exciting conversation about vendor risk. And this conversation has been popping up in a couple of instances. We've come across a number of times where folks either on the sales side, so when signing up to be a new vendor for a customer, so if you're trying to sell your services to somebody and they have a vendor onboarding process, you're likely to see a little bit more rigor in that, where they ask security questions and other types of qualifying questions. And then for your own internal, that might make you think, okay, well, what about myself? Do I have any risk to vendors that I currently partner with? And what are those risks? So for this purposes of this, we're going to have the chat about the internal risk that any of your current vendors may pose to yourself. But of course, these can be applied and thought through in advance when thinking of it from a business development perspective when looking to work with new prospective customers. So the first thing to do is really run through and maybe to reorganize a little bit is what is the biggest risk, or who are your critical vendors that are currently serving you right now, or that you're currently partnered with? We've seen a number of instances where they call them supply chain attacks, where organizations are breached or have compromises that occur not from their own internal services, but through vendors that are providing services to them. The most, I think, prominent one recently was the Sunwing incident, where Sunwing itself wasn't compromised, but the vendor that was providing the ticketing and boarding services to them, I don't know if I have that perfectly right, but basically a vendor providing critical services when passengers board a plane, that system was compromised and then basically took Sunwing down for quite a while and had a huge financial impact. So what are those critical services or critical vendors that are providing services to your business right now? And what are those risks that they pose? Can we ask these vendors specific questions? And I mean, if you've gone through vendor onboarding stuff yourself when working with new companies, you can take those same questions and apply them to the vendors that you work with and ask them things like, do you have a security protocol? Do you have contingencies in place? What type of security initiatives do you have in place? How do you secure our data? What is your disaster recovery plan? Just normal, I think, probing questions to help get a sense for, is there risk here and do we need to mitigate it? Based off of that, you can then evaluate what changes, if any, need to be made by either you or your vendors to mitigate those risks. Those can be as simple as providing having a backup vendor, to something like, imposing or working with your vendor so that they increase their security posture. And that really leads to kind of that basic contingency plan, which is, they're going to do what they need to do to help shore up their defenses, so to speak. But now what can we do proactively, intentionally, as another just in case, another layer to the onion, so to speak, to try and make sure that we as a business are as secure as possible. So when we think about this, if you have any questions relative to whether your vendors pose a risk to your business and what are the right types of questions to be asking to them, please reach out at cto@proserveit.com. And until next time, thanks for listening.